couple on other things. So, can you see people sort of, Adriana?
Yeah, hi guys.
Yeah, better. There we go. All right.
There's like 150 people here.
I'm so excited.
So Adriana, you can take it away anytime.
Okay, so are you guys ready to learn about Pinterest?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I like it. That was pretty good. Pretty good motivation. So I do have a PDF that I guess I can send over to Wendy that's going to kind of walk through a lot of the stuff I talk about as well. Oh yeah, Wendy, get some pics because we know I won't remember to do that. Okay, so first of all, with Pinterest, I just want to start out by saying that a lot of people think that Pinterest is, I have notes, so if you see me looking, I got to remember all this stuff. Pinterest is first and foremost a search engine, and all the time people think of Pinterest as a social media, and it's not. It is a search engine. So 90% of Pinterest users report that Pinterest helps them make purchases. So just think about how many times you're scrolling through and you see something, a lot like Instagram, it helps you want to make a purchase. And one of the best things about Pinterest is that the content lasts forever. So think about how many times you clicked on a recipe and it's from like 2012. Are we good?
Oh, hang on. Sorry.
We're playing with the volume.
Why is it? Hang on a second. What happened?
I think you muted it.
No, it's not. Why is it? Happening? It's playing my music now. It's fine. Cindy's remote can do it. You there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're good?
You're good.
So anyway, think about how many times you clicked on something and it's from like 2012 and you're like, how in the heck did it stay for that long? That's one of the best things about Pinterest and why it's more of a search engine is content will really live on. You know, Instagram, you're lucky if you get it for maybe a day or two, right? You're lucky if you get a couple of days of engagement. Even Facebook right now, it's really hard to even get people to look at that. And what's great with Pinterest is the content can continuously come up. One thing I will say about Pinterest is that results do take longer. Sometimes it's not as quick as Facebook and Instagram, where you might, get something on the front page of like a hashtag search and blow up overnight. Pinterest is something that does take a while. If you have been pinning for a while, you noticed in April, you probably went down a lot. That was universal. Pinterest is weird like that. So sometimes Pinterest is a little finicky in terms of your numbers might fluctuate, but really what you want to be focusing on are website traffic from Pinterest. So it's not just about how many monthly viewers, it's more about how many people are actually clicking on your content, going to your website, and how long they're actively staying. So that's why your analytics, I'm constantly getting people like, why are my analytics down? It does happen. In April, I went from 2.4 million to 1.4 million literally overnight. So it's not very fun. Before you get started on anything, make sure your Pinterest is a business profile because that's going to open up analytics. If you don't have that set up yet, I do have it in the PDF that will walk you through it. You just go to business.pinterest.com. You're going to set up your website. And then the next thing you're going to want to do is apply for what's called a rich pin. So a rich pin is going to add a lot more data to your pin. It's like when you click on a recipe and you go in and it has the ingredients list on it, that's a rich pin. It has data actually built into it. The main types of rich pins are going to be app. So if you have like an application for a phone, product, recipe, and article. And most likely here, it's going to be more product and article. An article is going to be like a blog post, a tutorial. A product rich pin is going to be if you're actually selling something in like an Etsy store or your storefront. So the two ones you guys will probably be focusing on are product and article pins. So that's definitely the first thing you want to do before you implement any strategy is make sure that you have rich pins and your business account set up. So now into the tips, because that was the back end boring stuff. So the first thing if you guys have questions, feel free to like raise your hand and ask. I don't want to just, yeah.
I I told them they can also just holler at you if you can't
Okay,
see them.
Yeah.
Or you can do them all, like, at the end, you can also take questions then.
Okay, cool. So your first thing you're going to want to do before you implement a really deep strategy is to do what I call a Pinterest audit. You really need to take a look at your Pinterest and look at it in the eyes of a potential customer. Your Pinterest is not for you. It is not for your recipe. It is not for anything outside of what your client wants. They have secret pins. If you have anything outside of your client, feel free and secret pin. I have like 7 wedding boards and I'm not getting married, but I have them that aren't relevant to my client. They're secret. So first and foremost, you want to go through and kind of cleanse. I'm just going to keep my notes up here. First, you want to make any boards that don't apply to your ideal client secret. So unless, I mean, I've had a few people, if they are like if they're wedding photographer, but they also talk about health foods and stuff like that, like you can kind of implement, maybe have one board, but just really think of what your target audience is searching for you. And you're going to want to focus on like 10 to 15 solid boards. You don't need to have too many. Because as you know, that just means you have to think of more things to fill them. You don't need but I wouldn't have less than 10 because you do want a good variety and you want them to be pretty exact. So if you're like a wedding photographer, you might want to do certain, like your location or your top venues. Maybe if you shoot at the Morris Center all the time, you might want a board that's focused just on the Morris Center. So kind of fine tune your Pinterest boards a little bit deeper than just like weddings. And when it comes to naming your board, you need to make sure that it's descriptive and function over form. So something like healthy gluten-free recipes is better than yummy food. And I know that a lot of times when people first make Pinterest, they might just make boards, kind of names just off the top of their head. I would really encourage you to have descriptions, not just in the title of the board, but on the description as well. And take a look at your ideal client and what keywords they're searching for. And if you're unsure, do a Pinterest search. Underneath, as soon as you search, just like Google, it's going to give you suggested terms. So it's going to give you in the colored blocks a whole line of keywords. And that is literally Pinterest telling you that your client who's searching for that keyword is also searching for all of these. So really keep note of those as well, because that's going to help you kind of grow your keyword list a lot more. A quick tip that I include in the guide is don't delete pins. Don't delete pins. Pinterest right now is really, really finicky. I'm in a couple Pinterest courses and groups, and a lot of people are being spammed or deleted or temporarily banned because they're deleting to cleanse. Pinterest doesn't like it when you delete. So what you want to do is, if you're doing an audit and if you're like a photographer and there's photos that aren't your style anymore and you don't want to capture that client, don't just go through and delete them all. What you're going to do is create a secret board and just call it whatever, old, doesn't matter. And you're going to, on each pin, it does take a while, but each pin you're going to go in and edit and you're going to move to that board, that secret board. You're not going to want to delete those pins. Once you've done that, you can what's called archive it, where it technically will just live forever. You don't want to delete it. You just want to archive it once you do your cleanse. That's a big stickler that I've seen some people get reported to Pinterest is because they're deleting too much. So my second tip is your bio. So like Instagram, your bio is searchable. So you want to make sure your bio has some really important keywords, which you can go back to, again, who your target market is, your ideal client avatar, and what they're searching for. Now, for a lot of you guys that are location-based, then you definitely would want to add location. For someone like me who's virtual, no one cares where I am, so I don't need to add it. But if you are location-specific, really try to get that. In the PDF, I walk you through how to create the perfect Pinterest bio. So it's going to go over, it fills in the blank. It's a little workbook. So I won't dive too deep into that. I won't take your time on that. But I also do recommend making sure you have some keywords. You do have to make it short. I think it's like only 150 characters. So make sure that you kind of wrap up who you are really quick, because people can search for you and pull you up that way versus your individual pins. The next thing are hashtags and descriptions, because I get asked all the time, like, what hashtags? Like, do I need it for Pinterest? So hashtags do work on Pinterest, but it's more to help filter new content. So it's kind of like when you search for Instagram and it's like the most recent, it's that idea. So you're not necessarily going to get a ton out of it in terms of long term. It's more for someone searching right away. So if you search hashtag business tips, anything that someone's posted in the last 24 hours is going to have priority. So you don't necessarily want to use it like Instagram where you have catchy ones like Flashback Friday. You want it to be keywords, just straight up keywords. You also don't really want more than like 5 to 10 hashtags. Even just a couple is all you need in order to get the use out of it. Pinterest doesn't like what's called keyword stuffing, where you just throw a whole bunch of keywords and hope it sticks. They don't like that, and they won't show your pins for that reason. So, and another, tip is if you're not sure what hashtags, you can just do the search feature with the hashtag, and it'll then show you similar hashtags as well. So if you are thinking, what hashtags relate, you can use keyword search, the Pinterest search feature, and find that. So in terms of the actual description, it's super important. They are 500 characters or less. So again, you have to really kind of think about what you're typing in each one because it will cut you off. And the image description is just like Google, like an alt text. It's how Pinterest searches for what your image is, because like Google, they can't see what your picture of a flower is. They have to literally read what you put. So if you don't put that it's a picture of a bouquet, they don't know it's a picture of a bouquet, and it just floats around forever. So that's another part where I know I say keywords a lot, but it's so key. I suggest every single person in the workbook, I have a space where you can search and find your top 10 keywords and to really kind of focus on those in your strategy. And keep in mind that only the first 75 to 100 characters actually show up when you're scrolling. So as you scroll, it'll have a little description. So try to keep anything super important in that front end, just because that is most likely what a person's going to see before they click on it. So if your really descriptive part of it is at the end of it, people might just keep scrolling because they don't see that. Another thing is you want it to be a cohesive sentence and a story, not just keyword stuffing. And this has changed in the Pinterest. At first, they kind of wanted it to just be keywords. Now Pinterest is saying, no, we want you to tell a story with each image. So it shouldn't just be like chocolate chip, good, yummy cookie recipe, yum, yum, good. Like, you really need to have a story. I was thinking about cookies as I wrote this. You really need to have the script of like, this incredible chocolate chip cookie recipe is not only delicious, but gluten-free and something your whole family will enjoy. So that includes cookie, gluten-free, family, chocolate chip cookie. So 4 keywords that someone who's searching is probably thinking family is in there without you just saying family recipe, cookie, good. So Pinterest is leaning towards it more being an actual story of each image without it just being like too descriptive, like chocolate chip cookie recipe, if that makes sense. Oh, you guys are so peaceful. I love it. The last one I did of this, literally like every 2 seconds, they were like, no, I don't get it. So I'm glad. This is so good.
Nice.
Okay, next is graphic pins. So graphic pins are those pretty little pins you see that have text on them. Those are going to be a rich pin. And so the thing with graphic pins, and I'm hit or miss depending on the industry, how super important they are, and I talked to Wendy about this, is if the post is educational and informative, they do great. If your post, if you're a wedding photographer, which I see quite a few of you guys in there are, me and anyone else that I've been talking to, we've not found a lot of success with that. So does it mean if you're a wedding photographer, you shouldn't make a graphic pin for every wedding? No, just know that it might not give you the best results as it would if you were writing a blog post that was like 5 photography tips in Forsyth Park. That's going to give you a lot better in a graphic pin than it being like so-and-so's wedding in Forsyth Park. Why that is, I don't 100% know, like I said, I've been implementing different strategies with different clients, and from all the groups I'm in, no one's really seen anything benefit from that. But if you're doing more informative posts, you have to make graphic pins because people aren't really going to read your blog on Pinterest unless they have something that's eye-catching. So your pin should be vertical, so up and down. You don't necessarily, you want to keep it around 800 by 1200. The people that do those super crazy long ones, don't do that. Pinterest doesn't like it and they will delete it. So sometimes you see the ones that are like crazy 5 miles long. I would honestly avoid that because it risks your account getting flagged as spam. So just try to keep it the basic 2x3 that Pinterest lets you do. Horizontal pins don't really stand out. You want it to be vertical, just the way their feed is laid out. And you always want to make sure that it's a reflection of your brand. Keep everything similar to whatever website they're going to click on, because if they click on your pin and it looks nothing like your website, they're probably going to click off because they're going to think that it doesn't actually go there. So if your pin is super bright and colorful and your photography or website is super moody, they are probably going to click off because they're going to be like, this isn't remotely the right content. So always make sure it's on brand. Make sure it has a very easy to read title, just that explains exactly what the takeaway is. When they click on the link, what are they going to find? 5 tips for this, 5 tips for that, whatever it is. You want it to be super easy and concise. I always recommend including a link to your website. A lot of people repin and delete websites. It's a thing. A lot of people do it. And if you don't have your website listed directly on their pin, it will honestly just kind of float in the atmosphere because at one point someone is going to find your pin and delete your link. It's going to happen. I've seen dozens of mine out there in the world that don't have my link or go to someone else's website. I've seen my pins repin to someone else's website. So always make sure that your website is listed. So if someone really wants to find you, they at least have a source. And then if you are having any kind of opt-in, so if you do any kind of freebies where like they have to give you their email address for a freebie, always create pins for that because Pinterest is where you're going to grow your newsletter list, hands down. People aren't going to click nearly as often on Instagram. They're not really going to sign up nearly as much as they are on Pinterest. Let me see what my next thing is. I also have in the workbook a guide that goes through all of that as well as what to include. And in terms of what type of content, like I said, if it's any type of tips and tricks, people love that. People love freebies. They love workbooks. They love being able to download stuff, and they love checklists. Another thing is to make sure a majority of your content is evergreen. So this is non-seasonal. So you can occasionally have seasonal, like, you know, engagements, outfits for Christmas or winter time this. But you want to keep 80% of your content evergreen. And that's just because seasonal doesn't stick on Pinterest as long. And if you think about it, people aren't going to really be searching for it all year round. So always kind of make sure a majority of your content is going to be something that someone can click in 5 years and it's relevant. Now, occasionally you can post stuff that's happening now. It shows you're new and relevant and on top of your game, but try to keep that to a minimal and compared to what you create that's going to live on. Okay. Any questions? Oh, wait, you're muted, so I wouldn't know.
Sorry, we muted us because we were getting feedback where the computer is sitting with the TV. It was creating that sound. So if we sound like we're like not watching, it's just muted. So.
Do you have any questions so far?
Nope, you're killing it.
Yeah, you're just awesome. Everyone's like super focused and absorbed, so you're good.
Okay, I'll keep going now. I just want to make sure. Okay, so the next, and honestly, the best thing you can do for your Pinterest is to automate. So the key to Pinterest, and where it is, you know, it's a search engine, but the way it's similar to like Instagram and Facebook and social media is they want you to be on it all the time. They want you to dive and they want you to never leave their platform. So if you are not pinning every single day, a few times a day, your numbers won't really grow and you won't build your list. And obviously no one has time to sit at their computer all day, every day and do this. And that is why I highly recommend Tailwind. If you've done Pinterest strategy in the past, you might have used something like Board Booster. They are no longer in existence. Tailwind is an official partner with Pinterest, which means it's the only legal tool you can use that won't get you kicked off. So there are a few others out there, but since Pinterest isn't aligned with them, they probably will eventually be deleted and you might be reported for spam if you use them. So Tailwind is just a Pinterest scheduler. All it does a lot more, but the main function is it schedules pins for you. So the way it works is when you sign up, you're going to get what's called a smart calendar, and Tailwind will crunch your numbers based on your Pinterest. So you'll connect it to your Pinterest account, and it is going to literally tell you when your audience is on and create a schedule based off that. So you don't even have to like look at your analytics. It will create a schedule, and you can easily, all you'll do is punch in and say, how many times a day do you want to pin? And it will create a schedule for you. You don't have to do anything. The schedule will look weird. You're going to have weird 2 a.m.s. You're going to have very odd times. But keep in mind that people are on Pinterest all across the world. So while it might seem weird that you have a lot of 2 a.m.s, you could just be getting a lot more international people. So what's awesome with it is it's going to create that schedule for you. And all you have to do is schedule pins, and it will literally fill in each time for you. So I can go in every week, spend 30 to 40 minutes, and get 10 days of Pinterest done. And it will automatically publish it with the description and the URL that I put in there with the pin. So you don't have to log in and do it. In terms of how much to pin, I don't recommend going over 15 pins a day. That is the absolute max. When you start going over that, it is, again, Pinterest thinks it's spammy. I'm in a group in another course I took on marketing, and a girl got banned from Pinterest. She's been a user for 5 years because she was doing 25 to 45 pins a day. And Pinterest said, nope, spam. And no matter how many times she proved it, they still deleted her. So try to keep it no more than 15 a day. You don't really need to go more than that. Honestly, you can go as little as 5 a day and still see really good results. You don't necessarily have to do a ton if you are in that place where you're like, I don't have a ton of content. Then start with 5 a day and then just move it up every day. I personally do 10 to 14 a day with my personal one. So I don't necessarily think you need to do 1 million pins a day. Keep it to 10 to 15. And like I said, when you hit that, the schedule will automate it. So some days it will put more pins on, and those are going to be days where your user is more active. So I know for me, Tuesday is a lower day, but that's because according to my analytics, my people aren't on Pinterest as much on Tuesday. Another few features that Tailwind has is they do have what's called a smart loop. So you can put graphic pins and it will automatically recycle it in your Pinterest. So I have one for all of my blog posts, and every week it posts a pin from it, and it kind of like repins it for you. So you're not having to remember, oh, I blogged that 4 months ago. Should I repin it? It just does it for you. You don't have to think about it. And in terms of making pins real quick, I would suggest for every blog post you do, for like educational ones, make 3 to 5 pins and then schedule them to go out over the next few weeks. That way, and make them all look different. So make all the graphic pins look a little bit different, different descriptions. That way you can kind of play with it and see what pin layout does the best and what description does the best. And then you can kind of focus that in your marketing strategy down the road. But every piece of content should have at least 3 to 5 pins made, no matter what. Those are my big tips. I feel like I went through them really fast, but those are my big ones.
There we go. Sorry, it's like a delay to respond to you. No, those were super awesome. I have a question.
Yeah.
What would be a really easy way for people to make graphic pins? Like, is there a program you recommend?
Yeah, what exactly is the graphic one? Yeah, that was my question.
Yeah, so let me,
can you screen share?
yes, that's what I was gonna say. Let me log in. looking at flights right now, so let me exit the window. Okay, let me get on here really quick. Okay, I'll just pull up a board I have that's literally just a million of these. Okay. I know how to share my screen. I just have to remember how to do it. Okay. Graphic pins. So these are these guys where they have, you know, what it is, top advice from 13 creative entrepreneurs. And when you click on it, it's what's going to take you to the blog post. So that is what's considered like a graphic pin. So it's going to be items that tell you pretty much what's in the blog post, or if you're selling a product, what the product is.
So you said for photographers, only really do that if we have a blog post that's like 5 tips for something, or that would like.
Yeah, and
does that make a huge difference for us?
I haven't seen it, and everyone I've talked to have not seen incredible results. It's okay. It's not as good. If you're not hiring someone to do it for you, I don't think it's worth you taking the time. If you're hiring someone, just have them try it. But if you're doing it yourself, I don't know if it's necessarily like worth your time.
Yeah. Have we tested any of those for mine?
Yes. And your blog post, like the one I sent you with the the one blog post you have that's doing really good. I
don't remember.
Whatever email I just sent you on. Anyway, there's a blog post she has that's doing it. It's a graphic pen. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
He said 5 nude poses for groomsmen.
Yes, that's it. That would probably get really good traffic. But yeah, as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Cool. And then what was the program to make those? What do you recommend? Yeah,
so I honestly recommend if you just use Canva. Canva is super easy. It's cheap. It's free technically. You can have a free Canva. You can't quite like upload fonts or anything, but if you don't have like a special font, you don't have to worry about that. Canva is a free graphic design thing, and what's great is they already have Pinterest template layouts. So you literally, when you go into Canva and you click Pinterest, it's going to give you like 50 or 60 layouts already made for you, pre-made, right size, and they have stuff for literally you name it. Canva has a template for it. So it's a really easy way to kind of whip those out really quick. I mean, you can use something like Photoshop, but I think Canva is honestly like super easy for something like that. That's just like a basic graphic.
That's what I didn't know if you used Photoshop or not for them too.
I'm sorry? Oh, sorry.
I didn't know if you used Photoshop for it too, if it was just like what she was saying, a different app.
Yeah, I mean, I would just recommend I use Canva for most of mine just because it is a lot easier for me to get them done really quickly. And with Canva, you can make and then you can have up to 30 designs in one like view. So unlike Photoshop where you need to like hide layers, you can just like copy and paste it and edit it really quick without having to edit the original file.
Yeah, it's a lot more user friendly, and it's just going to save you a ton of time. And for something like this, like if you were designing something for your brand that had to be in print and have your own fonts and all of that stuff, like Photoshop makes sense. But for Canva, it's just so easy, and it's, it'll do half the work for you more than that.
Yeah, you're not printing it. It's totally fine. It's great for that.
Any other questions?
So does Pinterest help boost SEO to be found on Google?
Yes, 100%. Yes. So
that's where it's buying Tailwind to do all that?
Yeah.
Because I've been looking into it because I did the free trial and it was like, I'm babied by it now. But my free trial is up and I'm debating if I want to use it.
Honestly, yeah. If you are a wedding photographer, I 100% say buy it and use it. Not an affiliate. I don't get anything for this. It works. It is the best. No, it is. It's cheap. It's the best. And yeah, it'll make you like Pinterest. If you're one of those people who I don't really want to do it, Tailwind will make you actually want to get on it because it's so easy.
And I've seen how long have you been doing my Pinterest? Since last summer?
Yeah, I would say I think last summer is when we started.
10 months, maybe almost a year. And I get a lot more Google inquiries, which part of it is the SEO that she does for me. So that helps like join up. But it's Pinterest is also helping that SEO. So it's just kind of part of the package.
Yeah, since they're hand in hand, I mean, what's great is just since it's so keyword based, and because it is something directly searchable on Google, a lot of times if you search for something and under the images, you're going to see a ton that link you back to Pinterest. So it's definitely, I think, a good strategy to implement, especially if you're thinking about it. I would say do it. Give it a 6 month to a year. Like I said, you're not going to see results necessarily like overnight. Give it at least 3 to 6 months before you decide, is it worth it for your business? And then go from there. And then after the 6 months, kind of evaluate and say, okay, was this great or not?
I have a question about hashtags on Pinterest. So you were saying like only do a few, right? Not, it's like unlike Instagram where you can do, you should do 30 and it's not penalizing you. This, like, what's the number that you feel like would become like keyword flooding or whatever, or keyword stuffing? Like how many should we keep it at?
I would do like 5 to 8.
Okay, so really a small amount. So you got to be super strategic about those.
Yeah. Yeah. So very, especially like, and one of the things is definitely like, I like it for location too. So doing, something Savannah in your hashtag, I think is really important for location. And yeah, picking kind of your top thing for your hashtags, because it is going to be more timeline focused versus like evergreen on there.
Mm-hmm.
How specific should you get with the hashtag? Like you said, Savannah, but
I would do like whatever so Savannah wedding photographer, Savannah elopement photographer, get pretty detailed. I mean, I think you definitely want your keywords to be pretty exact, because if you're just whatever, your client is searching for, think how they're thinking. What are they searching for? What are keywords that they're constantly trying to find?
So here's a question about that. So I've got one of the ones you did for me up, and it's got hashtag bridal portraits, bridal session, Savannah wedding, and Savannah wedding photographer. So it's like 2 local ones and 3 super broad ones. So is there value in the super broad ones because like the amount of views that you're getting might result in click-throughs to your site, and like not every one of those click-throughs is even going to be an actual potential client? Yeah. But that's still Google juice of some sort, you know what I mean? Like by getting people, or is it something that like you and I should sit down and strategize, like if I want to focus on elopements or focus on more engagements or whatever it is, to not even use some of those bigger ones and just focus on small picture ones?
So the thing with the small versus big picture is, first of all, you don't want to use anything that doesn't necessarily describe the image. So like if you're, so like if you're only wanting to target like a certain thing, you don't necessarily, like you don't want it to be on a picture of an invitation suite and be like Haley Page wedding dress, because Haley Page wedding dress is huge right now. Because it's not a Haley Page wedding dress. So it still needs to be descriptive of it, because your goal is for the ideal client to find it that way. So I think it's good to have a couple detailed and then a couple a little bit more broad. So like something like bridal portrait is a huge search item on Pinterest. So that's kind of an overall anyone looking for that.
Gotcha. Okay. Is it going to flag? Is there any sort of monitoring of that? Because like on Instagram, in my 30 hashtags, I might have Tybee wedding photographer, Savannah wedding photographer, Buford, Bluffton, Hilton Head, etc. And maybe that photo was taken only in Savannah, that one picture, and no one's monitoring that, and everyone's doing that. But is that gonna? Bud's monitoring mine, he says, but other than Bud, so like, is there, if like this one that I'm looking at is a bride in Forsyth Park, and if we've hashtagged it like Tybee wedding photographer, is that going to get flagged, or is it just like it's not as useful, so it's not going to get clicked on because it's not what they're looking for?
So I don't necessarily think it will get flagged. The only reason I've been a lot more cautious lately, because in the groups I'm in, so Pinterest is going public, which means it's going to be in the next year a more pay to play like Facebook, where if you don't do Pinterest ads, your content won't be seen as well. That's where Pinterest is going. So because they're completely redoing all of the things, it's real sensitive right now. So I think it's a combination of one, I'm just trying really hard to not make Pinterest mad at me, because I've seen so many people get blocked right now, like big people who like have millions of views and are getting blocked. You're like, oh crap. And two, you want it to be relevant. So if someone clicks on it, so if someone's searching a Tybee elopement and it's not a picture of a Tybee elopement, they're probably not going to click on the picture because they're going to be like,
Sure.
that's not Tybee, or that's not a beach, you know? So you kind of wanted to keep it similar, because just like in regular Google SEO, you want it to relate to where you're leading your person.
Sure. That makes sense.
Yeah, because I doubt like Pinterest might not notice, and I mean, technically a user could flag that. Would they? Probably not. It's just more trying to find the more relevant people.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Other questions? Who all is using Tailwind already in here? Anybody? Oh wow. No one except Lacey did the trial.
Can you show us
It was
Tailwind?
really cool. Because you can go to your website and so you want to use pictures from your website to put from there. You can do like 20 of them at once instead of going to each individual picture and saying, pin this to this board, and this one to this board, go back, and this one to this one. You can do tons of them all to the same board, or have them all pulled up and do this one to this board and have it all just in front of you instead of keep going back and forth to do it.
And that's like once a week Adriana does Pinterest for me. So it's not like
It
every
goes
day
in like
that she's
2 seconds rather than taking 20 minutes to get like 5 pictures up without it.
Yeah, it's yeah, definitely. If you use that, I can screen share and show you guys it real quick. You definitely want the extension, like the browser extension. So if you have like Pinterest where you click on it in like Chrome and it pulls it up, 100% you want the Tailwind extension, because when you get Tailwind and you go through your old blog posts, which is a homework assignment, go through your blog posts, make 3 to 5 graphic pins for all of those blog posts that are relevant. I make everyone in my academy do it. It is a law in my book, and use Tailwind to get them up. And you will.
It's also motivation to blog too, because when we talked about my Pinterest strategy, it was like I had old blogs and I had some new blogs, but then it was like the more I'm blogging, the more new, fresh content is available to pin, and it just kind of creates this loop.
Yeah, Wendy, we're popping, girl. We got like content.
Except I think we just hit the end of all our scheduled blog posts, and I need to like get on that, but it's coming. It's coming.
Maybe
we're close.
There's a bunch of drops in there, so we'll take a look.
I mean, I think the ones that I've actually like posted, anyway, we'll figure it out. Basically, I'm slacking on something and you're not, so that's pretty much how that usually goes.
So you guys, Tailwind.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry, I'm trying to get in here. Okay, can you see it? Okay. So this is like the back end of Tailwind. So this is what my Tailwind looks like right now. So these are all of my pretty things that are ready to go. And so what's great is as you scroll through, you can adjust anything. So you can kind of adjust any hashtags or anything you want. This is where obviously someone can go in and change your URL, which is why you should have it in your graphic pin. But you can easily go through and pin any content from any website. So like if you want to go to 100-layer cake and you see a blog, like it's your future, or you're like, oh, love it, gonna pin it. That's really pretty dress though. I mean, I'm down. Okay.
And Adriana, to also clarify, when you're pinning for me, you're not only pinning my own content, but you're also pinning other content to my boards, right?
Yeah, so you want it, so you kind of want like a 70-30 rule where it's like 70% your content and then 30% other content. You don't want to just flood it with your content, because that is more spammy. You want to actually show that you know your industry, and pinning other items are important. So I think I'm logged into Tailwind. Okay. So when you go into something like this beautiful wedding, when you click on your little browser, it's going to pull up all the images with the info. So like all I have to do is literally just click like, I love that cake. schedule, pull up my schedule, and then I type in, so I want this to go under wedding dress, add to queue, and that's it. And then cake.
So it's going to decide when it posts it for you?
Yeah, so I'll show you. So once we have those 3 new guys, we will refresh, and it, okay. And then, yep, so it'll automatically stick them at the bottom of your queue. So here they are, the last 3 go automatically in here. So these are all the times that they have determined that I am popular. So these are my times. This is a smart loop. That's another feature that involves like looping pins, but that's what that little guy means. Yeah, so it's going to show you all of your things. And to make your schedule, you just go to this little clock at the bottom. And this is your weekly pinning schedule. So this is how you can recreate it if you want to, or adjust your loops here. But this shows you your pinning schedule. So how often items are getting pinned, and then you can add a time slot if you want to, or remove any from here. So it is a wonderful thing.
That's cool.
Can you move them around too? Like, let's say I did like 5 things and I want one to go actually tomorrow and not like 3 weeks from now or something.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah, so you can easily, here, I can share it and show you really quick. Let me just go to that thing again. Yeah, so you can easily click and drag and move them to different time slots. And then what you can do is you can lock them. So like if I really want this to go up, you can lock it and move it around. Because one thing I do recommend is whenever you are adding items, especially if it's from like one of your blogs where it's like 20 images from a wedding, you don't necessarily want all 20 images to go up in a day. You don't want the same exact backlink to be going up on Pinterest at once. You want to shuffle your queue. So what's great is you can lock pins and say, okay, I don't want these to move. I'm going to lock them. And then you'll shuffle. And it'll automatically kind of reshuffle all of your images. Then you can move them as wanted.
So it shuffles for you? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so you just have to click the shuffle queue. But once you go in and pin, so if you pin like a whole wedding of yours, you just have to go in and hit the shuffle queue. And it'll do it for you.
And you recommend when you're putting the link in for an image that it goes straight to like the blog post. Like you don't want to just be linking to your homepage every time.
Yeah, you definitely want it to go to the individual post, because if it doesn't, that's going to increase what's called a bounce rate, which is when someone goes to your website and they're like, this isn't what I was looking for, and they just click out right away. But yeah, Tailwind is a super awesome, I mean, there's a ton of other features. I could literally, I do a class in my course about Tailwind, so I mean, it's a whole nother beast, but honestly, if you spend like 30 minutes playing with it, it's super user-friendly.
Cool. Who's using Pinterest like at all strategically for their business?
I'm trying to figure it out.
All right. No, but the reason I asked that is just because I think that's good. Like this is a good time for everybody to start seeing this and actually like start using it
And see,
strategically.
I didn't know anything about it though until you had mentioned something that she was doing.
And
Just
honestly,
before you,
like,
I had no clue.
and that was a fluke or just a benefit of hiring Adriana, is that I think you brought up Pinterest, or I was hearing you talk about it for other clients or something, and I was like, oh my God, like I don't do that at all. I had food, I mean, it was half wedding posts, half my own stuff from 5 years ago, and then yeah, food and exercise and stuff. So
I have a personal one and then I have my business one because I'm on Pinterest all the time.
I've got, and like mine is all one. It's
Oh, is
just
it?
secret boards. So
Okay.
I've still got, when she went through and did the cleanse of mine, she just made all of those like food things, because I still search those. I use that all the time. So I didn't want to have like 2 separate ones and be logged in 2 places. So I have just a whole thing of secret boards at the bottom. So yeah.
Yeah, you can definitely, I mean, I still use my Pinterest all the time for random life things, but it's just those, you know, you can still use it just as much, just keep those ones secret and just show the ones that are client focused. And like, I know because Pinterest was something that, I mean, I personally didn't really think about until we owned a bridal shop. And that's where girls are, is our customer was on Pinterest and Instagram. So that's why I
And would you get inquiries ever from Ivory and Bow where it was like
Pinterest. Yeah.
found you on Pinterest?
Gowns.
Wow.
The biggest thing with a bridal shop, I do Pinterest for a few bridal shops because girls search for gowns. Pinterest loves weddings, which is great for wedding people. Brides, one of the first places they go to find a dress is Pinterest because they want to see what that dress looks like on another girl. So Wendy, if you notice, every time we have a dress and I know who the designer is, I include it, the dress style name and the designer, because there's a chance that some girl out there is looking for that dress and she wants to see it on a real bride. So we get that a lot in the shop, especially for smaller designers like Daughters of Simone. Holy cow. Girls Pinteresting that designer like crazy, and they'd be like, oh my gosh, like I saw this dress, and then it linked back to your website.
Gotcha.
How do you find the dress style?
Well, not necessarily the style always, not like the name of the actual dress. Sometimes if we, the designer at least, And I get that information from a questionnaire I send my brides in Honeybook, and then Adriana has access to my Honeybook, and so she knows to go look at my month out questionnaire.
Did you ask them what their vendors are?
Everything, yep.
Okay.
I asked like wedding planner, florist, DJ, wedding dress, invitations.
Good for publication.
Mhm,
To have
yeah.
all that.
Well,
Yeah.
and for blog posts, like, because then you're linking to someone else's,
Or
and that
Instagram.
whole link
Because
is
I have a questionnaire that I send my
Mhm.
people to, but I didn't think to even ask. Well, I put on there, do you have, or where's your venue at? Just like little
Yeah.
shit, but I've never thought to be like, who is your dress made by? or
Yeah.
whatever.
It's like the month out questionnaire is when I ask all of that from like
Oh, okay.
confirming ceremony time and venue, even though I probably already know some of that, I still make them put that in there. Because, God forbid, they change that on me, which has happened. But since they put it in there, that's fine. So yeah, and ask them all the vendor stuff too. And I just put a note at the top that's like, because this team is working so hard on your wedding, I want to make sure I give them the proper credit when I share your images. So can you fill this out? And they always fill it out. Anything else? Cool. This was awesome, Adriana. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Oh, wait, we have a question.
Yeah, personal question. Hey, Adriana.
Hi, how are you?
Do you still have a waiting list?
So, okay, so I actually have team members now. Wendy, I don't think I've even told you. I've hired I have 2 girls on my team. They're from the Creative VA Academy, so I have trained them well. So while I am technically booked, I do have 2 amazing girls that I'm subcontracting new client work to, so I'm technically now open again.
Okay, cool.
Great.
And they're awesome. I have trained them all myself, and they're just weddings. We are only wedding conglomerate.
Cool. That's really exciting. Yay.
Yeah, they're awesome. They're super great girls. So they are available to take new client work on.
And is your little Pinterest mini course available outside of the Creative VA Academy, or is it inside of it?
So, okay, so it's technically inside of it. If people want a mini course, I will make it. I just haven't really, thought as deep as I should about it. But I do have a full mini course in the Creative VA Academy that goes over Pinterest, Tailwind, and Canva. Honestly, like one of my goals is my SEO workbook and then my Pinterest for photographers.
Cool.
I just need to find 5 minutes of time.
I know.
I will make it.
That's awesome, though. Yeah.
Takes a lot.
I'll let you know if we get feedback after the fact that like this would be a really beneficial course, because you might have an entire group of people that would buy that from you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I have it pretty much. It's obviously like what I have recorded now is virtual assistant freelancer focused, but I could re-record sections that are more like generic.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah, because the ones for my girls are a little bit more specific.
Awesome. I have another question. How cold is it in Ithaca right now?
Oh, yeah, so it's like in the 50s.
Oh, that's not as bad as it was. That's a little better than like 20.
So, you know, I'm looking to fly down to Florida like this month. 'Cause it's going to be in Milwaukee all summer, and hopefully it's warm there. We'll find out.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah,
Well, we miss you here.
Oh, wait, let me
Cool.
go to my Insta, you guys.
Oh yeah. We'll give you the here. I'll get over here so you can actually see more of us.
I'll do a, wait, how do I boomerang? Whew. I have to find the app on my phone because I don't want to log into Instagram right now. Okay, dance for me. Yeah, do me a little dance.
When?
Oh, I love it.
On the video.
We
Thank
got
you.
plenty of time. It's fine. We can. Yay. Thank you so much, Adriana. This was awesome.
And Wendy, I guess I will send you the PDF for you to post it because it'll
Yeah.
have everything as well as action steps.
Yep, that's perfect. I'll share it in the group and this recording. I think we said we were going to share it as well, so we can always watch it for you.
Yep, it recorded. So I will send it to you as well.
Cool. Thank you so much, girl. All right.
Bye.
Bye.